Terraria's post-golem progression is a very crucial part of the game, namely because it presents the player with a few choices. Do you blitz through the cultists using whatever you can get your hands on to move on to the pillars, or stray off the path and obtain some extremely powerful, optional gear? Today, we're going to be looking at one of the best pre-pillar magic weapons in the game, which gets easily missed due to its place in progression. Of course, I'm talking about the Charged Blaster Cannon. For those of you who farm the Martian Madness event, you'll be most familiar with this weapon, but for the players who usually miss this, I'd still consider this weapon, as it can make your experience a lot easier without being too difficult to obtain. Let me show you. As mentioned, the Charged Blaster Cannon is a Martian Madness event drop. The event's actually very easy to summon once you figure out how to increase the Martian probe's spawn rate. By placing a water candle on a platform in the outer 2/3 of your space layer, Martian probes will have an extremely high chance of spawning. In no time, expect to see probes nearby. Just make sure you don't kill it, as this will prevent the event from starting. Simply fly into its beam and let it fly off to trigger the invasion. Usually, we have to rely on the Martian Saucer mini-boss for the most epic drops. Lucky for us, the Charged Blaster Cannon doesn't fall under this umbrella, and actually has a 1 in 800 chance to drop from all regular enemies in the event. Although this does sound steep, it's really not when you consider the sheer quantity of spawns. By just flying around killing everything I could, and dealing with the Martian sources when I needed to, I managed to have one drop, plus a laser mining drill which has the same drop rate. I could imagine this only taking 2 or 3 invasions at most to obtain, but RNG could go anywhere. So, assuming you get your hands on it, let's take a look at its performance. The Charged Blaster Cannon has quite the variety of firing modes, which are cycled automatically when continuously firing, starting with small rapid-fire orbs, then larger piercing orbs, until eventually turning into a solid beam which infinitely pierces and deals 1.5 times the base damage. You can also single-tap fire this weapon to create a barrage of small projectiles. But of course, the main utilization of this weapon is the solid beam, which can deal some absolutely absurd DPS when used in a straight line of enemies. Even against higher HP targets, it absolutely fries them due to the high rate it deals ticks of damage. Of course though, if you do get your hands on this weapon, you probably hope it does well against the cultist, as this is the next step in progression, and I'm happy to say it does an amazing job. The beam is extremely easy to aim and can drain the cultist health in no time at all. It took him out that quick, I even managed to avoid a single illusion attack. So you're still probably thinking that it's not quite worth it just for one boss fight. However, the nature of this weapon's firing mechanics makes it extremely effective against the Old One's Army event, which is something I know a lot of players struggle with at this stage. I really don't think there's a more perfect weapon for this event pre-cultist. It quite literally wipes the lines of enemies like they're nothing, and also deals good enough DPS to sort out the mini-bosses swiftly. Oh, and if the Destroyer wasn't getting abused enough lately, I figured I'd see just how quickly this thing could take him out. And yeah, it speaks for itself. So, this weapon is fantastic, but we do have to keep in mind the choices I raised earlier. Arguably, the time spent obtaining this weapon could be spent taking out the cultist and moving straight on to pillar gear. And although it does deal exceptional DPS, it is absolutely nothing when compared to the Last Prism, which could be obtained only a few hours after killing Golem. Like any post-Golem Pre Cultist weapon, it really depends on the player's experience. If you have no need to hang around this portion of the game, I wouldn't say it's worth your time, but if you plan on farming the Pumpkin Moon or killing side bosses, the Charged Blaster Cannon is absolutely worth getting and will make this whole process a lot easier. What do you think? If you've used this weapon, what are your thoughts on it? Thanks for watching. For more Terraria content like this, drop a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.